Renaissance Craft, and today we're going to be talking about making a mug. So that's throwing, wedging, uh, pulling a handle, everything that comes with making a mug. Making it so the handle's nice, it matches, and everything. So we're going to start with the basics. All we're doing here is throwing the mug. This is nothing new. This is nothing exciting. Um, there's videos I've made on actually, doing pools and throwing in general. So if you don't know what I'm doing here, then please watch those videos and let me know if I can help you out in any other way. But right now, I'm just centering it. I'm using a pound of clay, and I'm just going to make the shape of a mug that I enjoy. I like it. It feels right to me. There's all kinds of different shapes and sizes that a mug can be. So you decide what you want to do and what shape and size you want to make, and hey, make that. The one thing you want to keep in mind when you're making something to drink, eat, uh, hold liquids or other fluids within is that uh, thickness or weight can play a huge part if people like it or dislike it, just like the texture as well. Having a rough texture uh, might look really neat, but if they need to put their mouth on it, they might not like that. So you could have it at the base where the fingers are touching it and all that, and they could really enjoy, having, the different textures. But where the mouth is, most people do like a smooth. No, you can get away with some ripples and other uh, items or textures, but for the most part, I would default to smooth unless you have a clientele that really actually likes a different feel for the lip or the mouth. So I'm just doing a basic pool, getting a basic shape, getting a bulbous lower part with a wider base for the mug to sit on. I'm cutting the top part a little bit, and then I'm going to flare out the lip. So my idea here is you get more liquid, you get a wider bottom to sit it on so it doesn't tip as easy, and then you get that nice lip to flip it out so your mouth or your lower lip can fit nicely underneath that, reduces the spillage, and it has a nice feel to it when you drink from it. When you're making something functional or something like this, you want to try, first off, your own stuff. Uh, Dishware safe glazes or food safe glazes. Um, so you want to make sure it works in a microwave and an oven, and dishwasher, all that. That's why I said dish safe. But you want to make sure it's food safe as well, where you're not getting you know leaching glaze materials such as lithium or calcium, copper, things like that. Um, so all I'm doing is creating the basic shape. The shape actually ends up looking quite different when it's finished, when it's done. But play with different shapes. Play with things that you like. What I like and what you like could be two completely different things. This is just to give you an idea of how to do it from start to finish. So I please don't copy what I'm doing unless you're practicing just to get the idea of how to do it and you're trying to make exactly what I'm making, but really explore, experiment, try different types of handles, cut handles, pulled handles, sculpted handles, different shapes, different sizes. Uh, it's important to really experiment with everything. Try different shapes and sizes of the mug. So all you're seeing right now is just me making my style of mug, what I think works for all the reasons I just described to you. Um, with the glazes, I like tins play with each other. So there's nothing wrong with having texture or different things to it. It's like um, so, have fun. But here is my basic mug. So I always use Camus at the end. It rounds and smooths the edges up nicely. It gives that nice, beautiful rounded look to the lip of the mug. I'm cutting off the bottom, as always, to thin it out to help the pot dry evenly. I'm going to leave it on the bat. Uh, so once again, just showing the whole process over, and showing it multiple times of how making a pot, each one, if you want, can be the exact same. There's different measurements, and I'll do later videos on how to make everything the exact same. But just showing, subtle differences using 1 pound of clay, throwing it up, getting the same basic shape. But to me, a thrown pot, handmade pot, they should all be slightly different. Each person that drinks from it, might want a thicker, thinner, wider, more narrow, bigger lip, smaller lip, larger handle, smaller handle. Like that's the point of, in my opinion, buying a set. So each person can get, you know, what cup they like the best, and then the things, basic shape, basic size, and uh, the colors are the same. Now here, all I'm doing is when I throw, my bottoms are thin enough at the bottom that I don't trim the bottom at all. So I'm just trimming the sides here straight on the bat, and it's dry enough now where I can manipulate the clay and really make it to what I want. Use that little wood tool and put a nice little indent into the clay, and now I'm going to, clean it up a little bit. I'm using my fingers, the wood rib, and metal rib to do it. So I'm just adding another part under the lip there. As you can see, it threw it off a little bit. That's fine when all said and done when I add that handle. So now I'm just taking that wood tool on the inside, and that's going up faster than the actual revolution of the turn, and created a little spiral in there. And now my signature mark, regardless if it's good or bad, is the seashell. I love, salt, seashells, and all that type of stuff. So I incorporated it into my actual pottery. So once again, just showing it over and over again. They're all different, but they're slightly the same. You can see them up top there, doing the same thing, cleaning it up a little bit. So here it's actually uh, dry enough where I'm going to clean the bottom up. Not 100%, but for the most part, completely. I'm getting the shape and the size. I'm getting the little lip of the foot in there, and I'm just making it what, except for the handle, the finished pot is mainly going to look like. Now, you can do all different types of things here. You can do all different types of carving, manipulating, cutting away part of the surface. If you're going to add more on, obviously, if it needs to hold liquid, you can't have giant holes in it, but you can do whatever you want. Now I'm going to cut it off. I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to let it dry upside down more evenly. And as you can see, we're just doing this over and over again. If I'm throwing mugs, or if I'm throwing, cups, or anything that goes in sets or pairs, or are supposed to be together, I will throw them all at one time, and I'll throw multiple ones. So what you're seeing here is the hammerhead or ram's head wedging technique. And now, I made another video of just pulling handles. So we're going to pull handles here. The basic idea, think of milking a cow. If you want to be vulgar, think of what men do to pleasure themselves. Like, it's all the basic idea. You're lubricating the piece of clay, you're gripping it. I'm really using, much like a hairdresser has very strong uh, thumb and index finger muscle, like I'm just using these muscles and contracting and pulling. I'm doing, depending if I want to make it thicker or thinner, if I want to pull it evenly. I'm, right now I'm pulling at a very even rate. Now I'm going to start adding my thumb in, and I'm running my thumb straight down that middle. So I'm just pulling and pulling and pulling. And a lot of times, what you see here, you might be able to get, 2 handles, maybe 1 handle. But that little edge at the bottom where it's starting to pull slightly different, you can decide to leave that, cut it off. You're making the actual uh, initial pull a lot longer than the handle is going to be. But I have that thick part at the top. I got the thin part or thinner part even at the bottom. And now all I'm going to do is cut it off. But I like to make about uh, you know 5 or 6 more handles than any of my pots. Sometimes you can say a 2-to-1 ratio where you're going to make, if you've made 12 mugs, I might pull 24 handles. Um, I'm confident now where I don't do something like that, but you can. It's sometimes a good idea to do that, but I'm making more because sometimes the uh, handle won't set just how you want it to. It might dry a little too fast. It might be too wet when you try to set it up and collapse. So it's always better to have more than trying to re-wet, moisten your mug and saying, "Oh crap, I gotta wait for this handle to get dry now," or speeding up the process, which a lot of people will do. They'll use torches and flames and things like that to speed up the process, or different types of things. So right now, all I'm doing, see, I'm measuring, getting the pot and the size of the mug, uh, and then counterbalancing that with the handle. And I'm just creating the shape of the handle. All I'm doing is for all those mugs there, I'm getting the relative size. I'm not getting, oh, this handle's going here and that handle's going here quite yet. I'm just getting the relative size. Okay, these, 4, 5, 6, 7 mugs are this large. And then I'm making the handles relatively the same size as each other. But they all, as you can see, they're all different shapes and sizes, different lengths. I'm not truly worrying about making them exact. Once again, as I explained before, I want each pot to be slightly different with the same size. You can see one's a little bit higher, one's a little bit wider. That's quite the different pair. These are actually different than the other ones. Those are larger. Those are more right enough where you can actually handle this without the handle moving so much. And all I'm doing is scoring. I'm scoring both sides, top and bottom. I'm adding slip or slop to it. This is the trimmings and the leftover in my throwing water, and I'm just mixing out there. I'm doing the same thing where I want to attach the mug. I'm just creating a crisscross pattern or a scribbly pattern onto the pot to score up the body to get the slop to mix in. Uh, so when I attach the handle, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to wiggle the handle onto it. So think of if you've ever used rubber or like a tacky resin. Sometimes you want to initially put it on there, both sides, and then you'll see wiggle it, wiggle it, wiggle it. So I'm creating a suction between the two, a bond between the two. I'm getting those molecules and chemicals aligned. I'm creating two that weren't originally together to want to be together and want to stay together without the dreaded cracking or breaking, which is very common with handles and mugs. And sometimes you don't even see it because the glaze you use covered it up. So now that I have the basic shape and the measurement and I got it attached on there, I'm cutting a little bit of excess out and I'm creating a little angle. And now all I'm doing is, you might need to lubricate it with water a little bit or add a little bit of water, but all I'm doing is, running my hand over and cleaning up those edges, uh, making the handle clay and the mug become one. Look, like they're one unit, one piece, and not any different than each other. So, you can use tools, use your fingers, but I'm just using this little wood tool to, you know, push that down. I'm trying my hardest not to move the actual, lip of the mug. All I'm trying to do is push the clay from the handle down, smooth it into the actual mug, and now what I'm going to do so it bonds it better. I'm adding just a little uh, piece of clay on top of the handle, so when your thumb hits, it doesn't, sink into a little abyss or indent. It's just rolling over top. It adds a nice little touch to it. It's not necessary, but doing this style of handle isn't necessary either. I tried to formulate that most people like a rounded handle. They like to hold their mug up a little higher opposed to down below when they hold there. But it's also, I like it so if you want to put your hand inside and wrap it around the cup, like that's kind of what the seashell thing is for the thumb. I like to do a one, two, three, or whole hand. I try to make all my mugs and handles different so they accommodate the person. Um, and it's good to think about that. Like when you're making functional pottery, it's good to think about what people like, how people like to do things. If you just make things the way you like it, you might not sell as much. You might not make as much because it's about the person you're selling to. It's about the consumer. It's not about you. Yeah, you're doing your style, you're doing your colors, you're doing your shapes, but if it's functional, you want your shapes and your styles to, you know, be what other people like as well. And sometimes you can convince people that, hey, you like what I like because what I like is better than what you like. But vice versa could be too. What you like doesn't necessarily what anybody else is going to like, so you have to adjust what you like to what the consumer likes. It's a balancing act. You shouldn't sacrifice everything to please people, but you need to sacrifice if you want to sell and make money off of that. So once again, going back to what we're actually talking about, making the mug. I'm just cleaning it up, doing that. Now I'm cleaning up the bottom. Like I said, I don't trim the bottom, and I like actually showing that throw mark or wire tool pull so you can still see it. But all we're doing here is just cleaning it up, doing it over and over again. This actually takes the most amount of time um, attaching, adding things. Just throwing a vase, throwing a bottle, throwing a cup, um, throwing a bowl. None of that takes as long as throwing a mug, a pitcher, something where a teapot, where you're adding multiple parts. Um, so just remember that when you're doing something and you're pricing something, the cost of things. Uh, well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. If you have questions on it, uh, please let me know. I'm always here to help. I want to help. I'm Renaissance Craft, and here's just a little information on exactly how long, what it is, and everything. So it takes about 8 minutes to throw it, about a minute to do the first trim, 2 minutes for the second, a minute or two to pull each handle, attach the handle, about 10 minutes, additional time, 5 minutes, total time about 30 minutes. But remember, drying time and drying always is something important. Once again, thank you.